Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sharon and this is Classy Shades Design. Hey guys, so I literally found this footage from, I think it was, well, obviously it was a Tumbler Tuesday that I was going to put up and never edited the footage and never showed it on the channel. So I thought, why not watch it with you guys and give my own critique of the work that I was doing to see how this would have turned out had we put it up. So what I do know is I remember my mom asking me to make a black tumbler for her that matches her Escalade. And so that's what the one is over there. That's the water bottle shape. I know she wanted a black tumbler for her Escalade. Not sure why I was creating this one right here, but I do know we took it outside and spray painted both of them black. And I can see that I've already mixed together the two epoxies. And so how does epoxy work, right? You have a side A and a side B. One is the hardener. The other one is the hardener, which activates the epoxy gel, right? The part A, which is kind of thick, it's slower to move, and you mix the two together. Epoxy is a chemical and it creates a chemical reaction, so you do want to be careful when you're putting epoxy together. That's the reason that I use the gloves and have on an apron and try not to get it over me. There have been times where I've had some allergic reaction to the epoxy. Where even like having the glove on, I found out when I would take my gloves off, some would be on my thumb, and so I would get an allergic reaction right here when I was pulling the glove off. So I found new ways to have to do that to make sure to not get it on myself. And then also my bracelets, I found out that sometimes my bracelet would drag in the when I'm rubbing the epoxy on, like I'm doing here. So I had to be careful and put on sleeves to make sure not to get an allergic reaction, because it itches, eyes swell, all those things. So make sure if you're going to work with epoxy to wear safety gear, or as we know it now as PPE. Obviously, I am making sure that I have a thin layer on here, so I'm assuming that I am getting ready to do a glitter on this cup. So whenever you're going to do glitter on a cup with epoxy as the adhesive, you want to make sure to have a really thin layer. The thicker your layer is, the more glitter it will take to make sure that it's all covered up. So you don't want a thick layer. And I'm just going to allow this one, I can tell I'm just letting this one spin, allowing the bubbles to rise to the top while I move to the second cup to the water bottle, which probably is what started all of this, to get that one prepared and ready. Now, if I were editing this video, right about here is probably where I would cut or speed up, because really, once you've seen it all. So I think I'll speed the video up right here. All right, next thing we're going to do is take some mica powders. This one is iridescent. That's a camera shot. Boy, is that blinding, right? This is an iridescent pearl mica powder. And I have to say, if you're working with mica powders, they are really airy, so they kind of fly around in the room. So you want to make sure that you don't have it around your subject that you're working on, because it can fly and get on that subject. And I'm not sure if you see that some of these are air bubbles within the epoxy itself, but some of it is where some of the mica powder flew and got onto the cup. And I'm not so worried about these air bubbles, because as I work them, they will, as I work the cup and start adding my mica powders to it, we'll get the bubbles out later. The second mica powder that I'm adding is one of the Jacquard, and I think that's a silver black that I had shown there, and we're going to go ahead and add that onto this cup as well. Okay, but this glitter right here is absolutely, it's life, right? It's Gunmetal by T Glitz. T Glitz is my daughter's glitter business, and I'll tell you, she started the business on her own with her own ideas because she knows that she wants to go to college, and she knows that college is a huge expense, but she also doesn't want to have to go into a bunch of student loan debt. So she's been working tea glitz for about 2 years now, I believe, trying and stacking her money. She hasn't spent any of the money that she's earned from her glitter business, so that she can make sure to help supplement the funds that she'll need to go to college. So I'm really proud of her for that. I'll leave links down below if you want to go and check out her website where she sells her glitter. That's cool. But this is gunmetal that I'm using on this black cup, and I can tell you it is fire against this black. Seeing it in person, nothing compares. It is so pretty. And I'm now really wondering, like, why did I not share this video? What happened that I didn't share this video back then? It's interesting to see all the little stuff behind the scenes, because when we cut these videos, you guys don't get to see all that really goes into it. Like, I try to keep my videos less than 10 minutes, and so I don't get an opportunity to give you everything that goes into a video like you're seeing right here in this semi unedited version. Wow. So I can tell you, when you use epoxy as your adhesive glue, you do want to you just want to pour glitter on top of it. And I'm catching it in the plate so that I can save it and put it back, because she makes me pay for my glitter, yes. But so that I can save it and put it back into the container. But what you don't want to see is any slick spots, right? You don't want there to be any slick spots on your cup, because that means you have more epoxy in that space than you do glitter. So you just want to keep pouring glitter on it until you have until you see no slick spots or no wet spots where epoxy has soaked up the glitter and gone through. It looks like you're using an excessive amount of glitter, but truth be told, you're probably using less glitter than when you use Mod Podge or some other adhesive to put it on, and it actually gives you a smoother cup at the end. Because there are multiple steps into doing this. You'll have to do a flood coat, you'll sand it after the flood coat, and then you'll put your labels on, or your whatever decals you want, and then you'll do another cup. So there may be multiple steps, which means you do it over several days, but it is actually a very pretty cup, very smooth cup, not as thick, not as bulky when you use this method of epoxy. I personally love it. It's one of my favorite ways to glitter a cup. And I can glitter it, let it spin, let it go, and then walk away from it and come back in about 3 to 4 hours and put a flood coat on top of it. So this is one of my favorite ways to glitter a cup. And I'm telling you, this gunmetal, it's giving it it's giving it life. So it's right about here that I realized that this wasn't just gunmetal. This was also Maleficent, which is no longer available on her site, that I was doing an ombre. So I was using 2 colors instead of the 1. And so I'll just keep letting this spin, right? This is what I'll do now. I'll just keep allowing this to spin until I look at it, make sure that I don't see any spaces where I may have missed. And I'm going to hit the bottom, because I noticed that I haven't hit the bottom. Come back, Sharon. Oh, there's a missed spot. I saw it too. Did you see it? I saw it. Yes. Okay. So I saw that missed spot, and I'm going back to hit it. Okay. When you watch it afterwards, it's amazing, because you see things that you normally wouldn't see in the clips, but I'm seeing this. I'm seeing that. Okay. That's cool. So that's how you just glitter it using epoxy. I'm going to move the screen a little bit fast forward, because really not a whole lot to talk about here, but we do want to make sure to get really good coverage. When you glitter using epoxy, get good coverage, pour the glitter on it, catch it so you can save your glitter and use it. Again, repeat, it won't be damaged, because if it fell off, that meant that epoxy didn't touch it, and so you're able to use it again, whether on this project or whether on some other project. If the epoxy touched it, I promise you it would be adhered to the cup. So just keep making sure you do all those steps to make sure that you have your glitter on the cup totally covered. Now we're going to switch gears and I'm going to do a shimmer on this cup with the micas that I showed you earlier. And so right now I'm just pouring in some leftover epoxy, the clear leftover epoxy, so that we can do a flow onto this cup with micas, right? We're going to do a mica flow. The key to this is just to do it to your own taste, right? Because you're adding epoxy onto the cup. There is no right or wrong way to do it. You do want to make sure that your cup is as level as it can be. Otherwise, your epoxy will slide to the bottom. I know that this cup is not level on the turner, and it's because it's a water bottle, and I've got the top in as far as I can have the cup, and I've got it as secure as I can have it with tape across the top, but it still will have a slight lean. What I'll do is try to lift it throughout the time to help keep it balanced out over its drying period. But right now I'm just adding black epoxy, and you're probably going, why black on black, Sharon? Well, this black is a mica black, which means that it has some shimmer in it, and my mom didn't want any glitter. She wanted a shiny cup with no glitter. So mica will get you there, right? Mica has this really nice shimmer to it without having to have glitter in it. And so using the black mica, it will just roll over this cup really beautifully. I mean, really pretty. If you've not played with micas and epoxy, you're missing out. Like, you are missing out on life, because it is really pretty. And I can't really think of very many cups that I do that aren't glitter that I don't use mica. Even in some of my new projects where I'm just using on whether I'm making wall plaques or pictures or anything like that, I use mica. Same for the white paint that I'm adding here. It looks like it's white. It's not paint, it's actually white mica that is shimmery white. And you can see it as it starts to spin around there, it's thinning out. I'm telling you, the glitter, the glare off of that glitter is the beast. It's making the screen just sparkle, you guys. Okay. Shiny things. I'm gonna get back. But anyway, when you're doing a mica flow like we're doing right now, you just put glitter here, there, wherever. You cover the cup with the colors that you want. It could be any colors, every color, all colors, however you want, because you're creating, right? So you make it look appealing to you, and you use as little or as much glitter that you want, and allow the cup to spin. Epoxy is self-leveling, so it's going to level itself out anyway. And that's why I was saying earlier, if your cup's not level, if your cup's not even, then that's why you'll get like a lip at the bottom or a lip at the top, because the epoxy is pulling itself to level to that end. So epoxy will spin and it will self-level. The way it looks right now, which I can honestly say, it's a hot mess. It's a hot dang-o mess. The way it looks right now isn't the way that it's going to end. It will not look like this when we're all finished. Especially after I add a little bit of heat to it to pop some of the bubbles that could be forming in it. This is going to take on a totally different life. So I encourage you, play with micas. There are some websites that you can go out there and you can buy small samples of mica powders. You don't have to make the big investment right up front. You can get small samples. I know Michaels sells Jacquard packages, and they have like 1, 2, and 3 different groupings, right? Department 1, Department 2, Department 3, as far as the sets go. I can't even think of the name. Anyway, they have different groups of mica powders that you can buy. And I think last time I purchased from Michaels, they were like $28 or some, but mica powders last a long time because a little bit goes a long way. So you don't have to have a whole lot in a powder. And I kind of ran out of epoxy. So you see me mixing more epoxy here so that I can add some more color to it. I'm telling you, this is totally behind the scenes, totally what happens when you're creating cups in an unedited format as much as possible. I did cut out some of the time-lapping spaces where it was just the same stuff over and over again. All right, so I mixed that together that fast, and now we are ready to add it to the cup again. Now taking my heat gun, I'm just adding a little bit of heat. I don't do the heat gun anymore. You can see me lifting it up because it was pulling so much at the bottom. That's why I started lifting it up, especially with the heat. What the heat does is move the epoxy. The heat melts the epoxy down, makes it thin, it liquefies it more, and it breaks the chemicals down inside of it, and it starts it to move even more. And because of that heat and that movement, I'm lifting the cup up so that it doesn't pull off the cup, that it doesn't flow and level itself out off the cup, but it allows it to keep rotating on there. You can see the shimmer. The black, the white, it's not mixing, it's not making a gray, and I'm so glad that that didn't happen to it. But look at how shiny and how pretty it is. When I was creating this cup, and I say this about a lot of my cups, but I really was falling deep in love with this black, white, and gray. Those are my colors anyway. Y'all know that. I'm black, white, and silver. I love black, white, and silver. So when I was creating this, I was really having the fangirl going on because it's just so pretty. And adding that heat to it just helps keep smoothing it out. You can see me moving the heat gun up and moving it down, which just helps push the epoxy up a little bit, push it down a little bit more till I get it to the places where it's all covered. And if I see areas that have too much, like right here, I've got too much silver, more than I want, I just come in with a little bit more of the black epoxy and break that up. A spot up here I can see didn't get covered well, so I'm going to go ahead and add some more epoxy up there to make sure that we have good coverage all over the entire cup. And I usually add a little bit here and there for good measure. I think I did this. Maybe 2019 or the very, very beginning part of 2020, if not. So this footage has been missing for quite a while because I didn't get the opportunity to make anything really last year. So this had to be at the end of 2019 or the very beginning of 2020 because I see I have on a sweater. Wow. Okay, so from this point on, you just add epoxy to make sure that you have good coverage, allow it to spin, and then we'll come back with a heat gun to torch out any bubbles that we see within the cup. Now I use a torch. I'm sorry, there's a torch popping the bubbles. The torch is because the reason I don't like to use heat gun to pop the bubbles is because the heat gun is air. And so it's blowing air into the epoxy, which really just creates those really little micro bubbles. And it defeats the purpose because at the end of the day, you're putting bubbles in the epoxy instead of removing bubbles. I like to use the heat because the flame, it's a natural clean flame. And as you move it over the epoxy, it just heats it up and actually takes the bubbles out and gives you that crystal smooth as glass finish on your product. But there is a caveat. You have to keep the flame moving. If you set that flame too long on that epoxy, it will burn the epoxy, and you don't want that because then you have to kind of start your project all over, and burnt epoxy stinks. And remember I said earlier that this is a chemical, and so burnt chemical can be very dangerous to your health. So make sure to wear your PPE. I have on a ventilating mask, and I have on my gloves, and I have on goggles. So I keep myself pretty covered up. All right, that's the end of that video. That is the end of that video. Wow, I can't believe I lost that footage. But let me, I'll put in a few pictures to show you how it actually turned out at the end.